With the new year beginning means new faces joining us on Rust, and with this video being long overdue, I've decided to condense 30,000 hours of Rust game knowledge into one easy digestible format. From the iconic base build you see in every single one of my videos, my in-game graphic settings, console commands, tips and tricks, and FPS optimization so that you can be the best in the game. This is a different type of video which has been timestamped, so pick and choose what appeals to you the most. First, we're going to start with FPS optimization. It's going to be split into two categories. Internal, which is inside the game, and external, everything that you can do outside the game for the most FPS. So we're going to start with internal. So right now, I'm going to take you through my graphic settings, all the way through gameplay and experimental. First and foremost, under the gameplay tab, we have our field of view. My field of view is 90. Now, there is two different options for field of view. There is FOV scale true and FOV scale false. To access these commands, just simply press F1, type graphics.vm. As you can see, the first option here is true. So this is what I play on, purely a preferencing. I'll show you what it looks like with it on and with it off. You can pick and choose what you prefer, but this is a preference thing. My head bob is off. I don't have any hit markers. I don't want any game tips, and I have no hurt punch. Bag gifting, anyone. Show building block zones on. It's very useful. See where you can and can't build. Show range volumes on to see the range of the sprinklers. Show building preview is on when building. Show IO arrows is on. Deployable snapping is on advanced. My censorship, again, preference, but my nudity is on underwear purely because, you know, YouTube doesn't like cock and balls swinging about. Hide signs is off. Show blood is off. Censor recordings on. Internet audio streams on. Steam nicknames on. Rich presence off. Streamer mode on. Hide direct messages in stream mode is off. Now we get to physics. Max Gibbs is on 0. On top of your Max Gibbs being on 0, you also want these three commands to be on 0. So you want to open up your console with F1, type in effects.max. These three commands should be on 0. Effects.maxgibdist 0, effects.maxgiblife 0, effects.maxgibs 0. And I'll show you why. What Max Gibbs does, it removes debris that break in Rust. So for example, if a wall breaks whilst you're getting raided, the wall will instantly disappear when it breaks, it won't fall apart and stuff like that. These are the things that you only notice when you're actually in these scenarios, but trust me, if you sort it now, you'll be thanking me later. Upgrade effects on, RGB lighting off, RGB brightness is on just default, which is 1. Now the audio tab is dependent on your own audio setup at home. So as you can see, my master volume's on 0.1. For a lot of you, that's probably really fucking quiet, but for me, it's really loud. All these in-game sounds don't really matter too much. Adjust it to what is comfortable for you, but my speaker config is on stereo as I'm using IEMs to play Rust. Now, screen tab. I'm playing on 1920 by 1080, full screen with my FPS uncapped. I'm on a 600 Hz monitor. This is what I normally play. And now we get to the bread and butter. Graphics. Your render scale should always be on 1.0. You won't get any extra FPS if you lower this. It will just make your game look like shit. My shader level is 4. Back in the day, your shader level was 1. You would get more FPS, but personally, I haven't noticed a change in my FPS, so I just kept it at 4. NVIDIA DLSS and NVIDIA DLAA both should be off. NVIDIA reflex mode is on plus boost. This is a must-have on. It helps dynamically reduce your system latency. No one likes input lag. Get that on. Latency marker, have that off. Pixel light count, have that on 0. Particle raycast budget, have that on the lowest, which is 4. Soft particles off. Volumetric clouds is off. My draw distance is on 500. Water reflections on 0. Water quality on 0. Grass shadows off. Grass displacement on, precise terrain billboards off. Now we get to textures. Texture quality, full resolution. The reason it's on full resolution is because full resolution actually makes the skins in Rust look really good. What's the point of spending a couple of bucks on skins if they look like horseshit? Anisotropic filtering mode disabled, filtering levels on the lowest, which is 1. Parallax mapping on 0. Now we get to shadows. Now shadows is arguably very important. I personally have my shadows on 0, but this makes the shadows flicker. If you want to sacrifice a bit of FPS, put it on 1. It makes the shadows not flicker. My shadow resolution is low. My shadow mask mode is on distance shadow mask. My cascades is on 2. My shadow max distance percentage is on 0. And my max shadow lights is on 0. Your max shadow light should be on 0, and I'll show you why. This is what max shadow lights looks like when it's on 0. And this is what max shadow lights looks like if it's on 1. I do not recommend it, as it obviously makes it darker inside your base, makes it harder to see, and it's particularly useful if you just have it on 0. Everything is on the lowest it can possibly be. There's 2 settings in here that I want you to be mindful of. Now, object quality makes it easier to see through glass in the game. The higher the object quality is, the more FPS it's going to take, but the further away you can see through glass in the game. I find 110 to be the sweet spot, as you can see from further away, without too much performance impact. Tree quality is another one I want you to be mindful of. If your tree quality is too high, you actually won't be able to spot players in bushes. Now, this is why I recommend dragging it all the way down to 0. Look at the difference. Now I can see the guy standing there compared to before. So remember, tree quality down to 0, object quality on 110. Anti-aliasing off, high quality bloom on, occlusion off, my sharpen is on, and my vignetting is off. My cinematic effects are all off. Everything is all off from this moment onwards. User interface, again, because I'm playing on 1920 by 1080. A lot of this is preference. I'm not going to go through it, but you can have a look anyway, see and adjust it accordingly. Crosshair. Now, I don't use the in-game crosshair for 2 reasons. Reason number 1 is I can't customize it the way I want it. And reason number 2 is that when I'm recording, I don't want my crosshair to be shown in my recordings because for some reason people get annoyed. So I use an external crosshair. It's called Crosshair X. You can check it out on Steam if you're interested. My interactions or default, I have not touched any of these settings whatsoever. My controls are a bit different. I adjust my sensitivity in-game depending on what I'm doing for cinematic purposes. This is not actually my sensitivity. If you want to see my full sensitivity, all of that is in my Discord, discord.gg/Tacularr, if you want to check that out. But yeah, everything again is all default here. I haven't adjusted anything. Keybinds, again, this is a preference, but I'll go through and I'll show you what I use. My burst fire, I've got it on Z to activate burst fire. And my hover loop is on my side button, my mouse 3. Other than that, it's pretty much all default. I do not even bother changing anything whatsoever. Experimental occlusion culling is on. Now what occlusion culling does is it makes it so that any objects that you can't see in game doesn't load. This helps with performance. Now there is some people that will experience frame drops or stutters when they move their mouse around in game. If that's you, turn that off. Contact shadows is off. Automatic processor affinity, have that on. This is particularly useful if you're on an X3D CPU, more so 7950 X3D, 7900 X3D, etc. But yeah, I just have this on because I used to have one. Just keep it on anyway. GC buffer is on max 4096. This may be less for you depending on how much RAM you actually have in your system. But for me, my max is 4096. This helps with stutters in the game. Now we're going to do some useful tips and tricks that may or may not help you. First things first, in the accessibility tab, you want to set your tree marker color to orange. If you haven't set your tree marker color to orange, I'll show you why. Now, having your tree marker color on orange is particularly useful if you're hitting wood in the middle of the night. It makes the X more visible. Inventory, quick craft delay, you want this on 0. This just makes it so anything you click in quick craft instantly starts crafting the second you click it. The default is on 0.2 and it adds a 0.2 millisecond delay when clicking something. It's fucking annoying. Get rid of it. All right, next up, a lot of you players already have anyway, but this is for the new players, headlerp. Now, my client headlerp is on 999. As you can see, when I alt look and look around and let go, it snaps it back to the center. If you have it on the default, which is 1, as you can see, it takes a little bit longer to snap back to center. We don't want that. It's annoying to have, especially if you're looking around all the time. Have that. I just put mine on 999 and call it a day. It instantly snaps back to the center. You can stay hyper aware. Good tip to have. So that covers the in-game side of things, from tips and tricks to the graphics. Moving on to external, which where most of the FPS boost will come from. I wouldn't include this in the video if it didn't work, but it does. So let's begin. The first one is Hypertune, a one-click optimization tool that's super easy for beginners to optimize their PC. You probably would have already seen this from your other favorite Rust content creators, and if it interests you, you can check out Hypertune in the description below. Anyway, let's begin. When you first get Hypertune, you need to do a benchmark. As you can see, my last benchmark was a month ago because I haven't done it since then. You run the benchmark and then it runs a synthetic benchmark to test your computer. By the end of it, it gives you a benchmark result, as you can see in the top left-hand corner. And from there, you can begin optimizing your PC. You'll be able to then optimize your computer by disabling some things in the bottom left-hand corner. If you don't know what these things are, you can simply hover over the question mark and it'll tell you what it's disabling and what it's for. Nonetheless, this is what I've got selected. On the right-hand side, you have process monitor, GPU autoclock, and CPU autoclock. Now, process monitor, I've got it off. My GPU autoclock I've got on high, and the CPU autoclock isn't enabled at the moment. I do this myself through BIOS, which is where we'll be going through next. But for now, let's just continue. Once you've selected what you wanted and you've hit optimize, you then go run one more benchmark with the optimizations you enabled, and it will compare the score to your pre-optimization benchmark. As you can see, when I did it, I got a 10% increase. And once it's all done, you can literally close down Hypertune and you are done. The next step is going into BIOS and optimizing your CPU. Disclaimer, this is for advanced users only. I'm not responsible for your PC fucking up. If you're not comfortable going into BIOS, Hypertune optimization is more than enough. And finally, this is for AMD X3D CPUs only. I've tried what I'm about to show you on my 7800 X3D and 9800 X3D. And finally, make sure your motherboard is up to date. If you don't know how to update your motherboard, this section isn't for you. Anyhow, let's get into the BIOS. The first thing you want to do when we're in the BIOS is enable X3D Turbo Mode. Now, if you only play Rust, this setting being enabled will boost FPS. However, performance in other games and workload activities may be worse. Depends on the game and depends what you're doing, so it's up to you to decide whether or not you want to proceed. If you only play Rust, I recommend turning it on. Next up, we want to enable XMP/Expo if we haven't already, to make your RAM run at full speeds. As you can see, I have multiple RAM profiles. I just selected XMP1. This may be different or the same for you. Next up, we're enabling core tuning config to level 2. This was the recommended setting by Gigabyte engineers, so we're going with that. Your specific motherboard may not have this setting, however. And finally, we're going to go into advanced CPU settings and look for precision boost overdrive. We're going to click into that, select the PBO limits to be motherboard, close out of that, and look for curve optimizer and click into it. Once we're in curve optimizer, we're going to set the optimizer sign to negative. Now, the curve optimizer magnitude below it is a tricky one. A safe number a lot of my friends can do is 10 to 15. You can push higher if your CPU is capable of doing so, but for the sake of this, I would set your magnitude anywhere between 10 to 15. In my case, it's on 22, which is relatively stable for my system. I don't know how. If I go to 23, 24, even 25, it crashes my fucking computer. Anyway, once that's all done, you want to hit save and exit, and it will reboot back into Windows. All the things that you just edited in BIOS will be saved, and we will continue off from the desktop. Now, once we get back into Windows from editing the BIOS, we want to do one last thing. We want to go into our library, right-click Rust, go Properties, and on the launch options, you want to set your CPU priority high, exactly how I have it like this. And if you want, you could also set your headlerp to be 999, so the setting saves upon launch. This is my FPS before and after optimization. Your FPS improving is going to differ between system to system, but ultimately this is a big jump for me, and I'm able to stream, record, and play in decent FPS. Moving on, we have a build guide for the infamous Tacularr 4x4 you have seen in all my videos. What makes this base special is how versatile it is and how quick you can get it built up and ready for online defenses. It of course has its own flaws, but for groups that want a quick snowball base, you can't go wrong. Quite literally one of the most classic bases you can build in Rust. Combined with advanced ortiz from the water well and in a good node area, you can easily bang out this base in over an hour. Nonetheless, let's get into how you build it. You start off with your basic 2x2 starter, which we will expand upon later. You can design the interior how you like really, as long as the footprint is the same. Once the initial 2x2 is complete, we want to build up the second and third floor as shown. Once the second and third floor is complete, we want to expand as follows. If you have trouble keeping up, feel free to pause or slow down the video. Once you sealed in the outer ring, you want to begin working on your corner peaks. These will be for the inner peak floor later. Once the corner peaks are complete, you want to go back up to the third floor and begin doing your inner peaks. There is many different ways to design inner peaks on this space, but this is just one of the ways that we do it. Once the inner peaks are done, you want to do your corner jump ups to prepare for the next floor as follows. These triangles are good for placing turrets on later as well. At this stage, the base should just look like a gigantic fucking cube. Next up is preparing the corners and outer shell along with the externals. Do exactly as shown and slow down the video if need be. You want to repeat this process on all 4 sides of the base. Place 2 triangles and then 3 squares off the triangles. Off the last square, you want to place a triangle and demolish all squares, and then come back with triangles, bringing them close to the corners we just set up. From the middle triangle, you come out 5 squares to do the external TCs. Remember, you want to repeat this process on all 4 sides. Once all 4 externals are done, it's a matter of just filling in the gaps on the external shell. Next up is completing the open core where your main loot will go. Similar to inner peaks, there is many ways to design this, but this is just one of the ways we do it. Once the open core is done, fill in the gaps and add ramp peaks to look into your open core, particularly useful for raid defenses. Next up is building up the corner peaks from earlier. Same principle, repeat the process on all 4 sides of the base. Once the corners are complete, just build up the shoot floor with frames. We're nearing completion now. Once you've built up the shoot floor, it's about adding the windows and roofs to finish it off. Repeat this process on all 4 sides now. Once the roofs on all 4 sides are complete, you can build up the corner peaks with windows, and any missing walls should have windows too, as shown. This part is pretty straightforward and easy, just adding the final touches to the roof as shown here. The base is basically complete from here, and how you customize the interior is up to you, but nonetheless I'll show you how my team and I usually set it up. This top section on the roof is the main part you'll be defending from. I recommend putting your full kits, AKs, and lots of turrets up here, and it wouldn't hurt to have a spare workbench with med supplies up here too. Finally, we want to build the compound and gatehouses. You want to repeat this process on all 4 sides. Finally, connect the gatehouses to the external TCs. The base from this moment onwards is complete, and how you customize the interior along with turret placements and batteries is totally up to you. If I were to tell you where to put them in this video and you copied it 1 for 1, it could be used against you. Nonetheless, I hope you enjoyed this different type of video. Like, comment, and subscribe for more. Until next time.